Welcome back to Stories Behind the Photo. In this episode, we sit down with photographer and DP Akwasi Asabere. Akwasi and I met years ago when we both worked at America's Test Kitchen. In this conversation, he takes us through the technical process he used to capture some of these moments, but more interestingly, what would have happened had he not shown up to do so? And what does it feel like to be in community with other photographers? These are the stories behind his photos.
So this photo was taken during a trip to Rhode Island where I was helping a friend shoot a documentary. And the first morning we went to shoot, I walked out and I saw this scene for the first time, and I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is like a crazy scene, just like the water and how it reflects the houses, and just like everything about it was just so tranquil and calm, and it was so picturesque that, I was almost begging somebody to take the photo, and I was there. So like, I wanted to take that photo. So I made a mental note in my mind that for the next day of the documentary shoot, I would make sure to wake up early to get this photo in this exact light. So I think on that day I woke up about around 5:30, and then I walked out of the house, and I framed up about 3 frames, in which I ended up choosing this one. And the challenging thing about this photo was that it was still early, so there wasn't a lot of light. It was still that blue hour moment where, there's light, but like it's very, very faint. So I had my film camera with me, and I had Kodak Gold 200, which isn't a very sensitive film. So I quickly realized that I had to crank my lens down to a 1.4, which, if you're shooting a landscape scene, that's not ideal because it's the smallest range of focus you can have. But I had to, otherwise it would be completely underexposed. I also had to set my shutter speed to 1/80th of a second. So I also had to keep in mind to be more still than usual when taking a photo. But yeah, I took it, and this is one of those photos where when I got the film scans back, it turned out exactly how I wanted it to in my head. The colors, the exposure, everything about it was as if I was looking through my viewfinder again, because it was just that accurate to what I saw that morning. And looking at it now, just the reflections on the water, it's just, so tranquil and so calm and so peaceful. It really makes me think of the perfect morning, and I will forever be proud of this photo, because for as challenging as it was to take, it was even more rewarding seeing the results. This photo came about because I had responded to an Instagram story of a photographer I had been following for a while. He was going to be in Massachusetts for a job and needed a few people to help out on his shoot. I quickly replied because I thought it was a great opportunity to meet someone on Instagram whose work I really admired. I was quickly put down from the idea of meeting him because he was in Western Massachusetts, which is about 2 hours from where I was in Boston. So after hearing that, I immediately hesitated on whether or not I wanted to go, because at the moment, just the thought of driving 2 hours didn't seem appealing to me, and I was starting to think if it was really worth it just to go and meet, a photographer that I follow on Instagram. But the more I thought about it, the more something in me kept telling me if I did not go, I would regret it so much. So honestly, after a short time of thinking this over, I decided to make the 2-hour trip. When I got there, all of the other people who had responded were also photographers. And I'm not usually surrounded by other photographers. No one in my friend group is a photographer. So often when we go out, I'm the one with the camera. And I really don't have anyone to really talk about camera stuff, like new cameras, lenses, or honestly, any ideas I have about, photography as a topic in general. They're just not the people to talk to about, and it's not their fault. And at times, it kind of sucks just not having those people around in your close friend group that have the same interests as you. So it was a nice welcome to be surrounded by other photographers who knew my language, who knew, cameras, who wanted to talk about cameras, and not just cameras, just techniques and what they like to shoot, what I like to shoot, and it's always fun when you're in company with like-minded people who like the same thing you do. It's just always fun to talk with them. I don't know. I love that aspect of it. So during this day, we spent the first half at a river talking, posing for photos, and just generally having a very good time. After that, we drove a little over an hour away to a mountain called Mount Greylock. As you can tell by this photo, it was golden hour and the light was casting its rays everywhere. Literally everywhere you looked was just bathed in golden light. At this point, everyone had their cameras out and started shooting whichever way. It seemed like you really couldn't take a bad shot here. This specific photo came about when one of the photographers I was with was playing with this scenic telescope. At least that's what I think it's called. I'm not really sure. And he just looked like something out of a magazine. It was actually surreal how the light just doused him. He was about to walk away when I immediately told him to stop. And I might have yelled. I'm not sure because I was just so excited. I think that's why he smiled in this photo. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Regardless, it worked out beautifully. The fact that I was using Kodak Gold 200 also helped because, it's right in the name, Kodak Gold, I feel like this exact situation was what the film was made for. And I truly feel like I used it in like the perfect situation I could have. Every time I look at this photo, I'm really amazed at how it came out. To me, it's magical. It's just a photo that I honestly look at, and it seems kind of fake how like good it looks. And I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but like it's just like a photo I look at, and sometimes I can't even believe that I took it because I truly do think this is something you would see in like a magazine or something. This photo and that whole trip in general taught me a very valuable lesson that I honestly should have learned a long time ago. And it's to take advantage of random moments, take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves to you spontaneously, even if it seems like a hassle. Because if I didn't decide to make that 2-hour drive, I would have never met all the amazing photographers I met that day, and I definitely wouldn't have been in the right place at the right time to take this shot. So this photo was taken during a trip to Hawaii. At that time, my now fiance and I hadn't taken a vacation in a very, very long time. So we were very, very excited, and we were going to Honolulu. My fiance, being who she is, made a very detailed itinerary, so there was definitely no chance that we wouldn't have anything to do. For this specific beach, I forgot what it was called, but we found it while my fiance was making the itinerary, and it was about an hour or so drive from where we were staying in Waikiki. When we got to the beach, it was a lot more crowded than we thought, which I don't know why we thought it wouldn't be crowded, but it was so crowded that we actually ended up arguing because we couldn't find a parking space. So already the trip to the beach wasn't off to a hot start, but it wasn't like a real fight. We were both just really annoyed that like we couldn't find a spot because all we wanted to do was just enjoy the beach. When we finally found a spot and we were walking to the beach, when we got on it, the beach was a lot more crowded than we thought, but not in a way that felt packed, just in a way that like I didn't expect there to be that much people. Again, I don't know why I wasn't expecting there to be people on a beach, especially on a beautiful day as it was. It was also the most people I've seen swimming in the ocean at a beach. Again, it was very, very crowded, but not cramped, and it made for a really nice scenery, just, seeing everyone out there enjoying their time. It made us want to sit there and enjoy our time as much as possible. It wasn't until we found a spot where we were gonna settle when to the left of us we saw a bunch of people jumping off this cliff, and it seemed like the only people that were really jumping were kids and teenagers. And my first thought was that could never be me. For one, I wasn't a very strong swimmer, so the idea of jumping off a cliff just didn't appeal to me at all. But at the same time, I could see the fun that everyone was having. Who am I to judge people who want to endanger their lives for some fun? By the time I actually walked over to take this photo, ironically, no one was jumping off the cliff anymore. And so I was like, what the heck, And so I don't even know how long I ended up waiting there for more people to come, because I wanted an action shot of someone jumping off like I have here. So I waited and waited and waited, and I actually almost walked away until I saw this group in this photo right now come up, and everyone just started jumping again. I remember I actually waited a bit more to capture what I felt was the perfect shot, and it was this one. This photo ended up being very special to me because it really reminded me of the excitement I had during our time in Hawaii, the hours we spent exploring the island, the people we met, the food we ate, and all of that comes rushing back when I look at this photo. And it's honestly what I like about photography, just the fact that you can look at something and be transported back to that moment when you were just having a good time.